Hi, I'm Carol at the Handcrafted Garden, and today I'm going to show you how to plant a succulent garden that looks like a little flower arrangement growing out of a boot. So let's get started. One of my favorite things to do when I'm not researching for a class or teaching a class or recording a video is to run down to the thrift store and think outside the pot for a little bit. I like to find unique ways to put plants in a container so that it really looks like I've put some effort into it, into making my container garden be beautiful. And so I found this ceramic bowl. It is a well-used ceramic bowl, and it had no drainage in the bottom, and I needed drainage. So Stephen took it to the shop and used his grinder to grind a little X in the bottom so that I have some drainage. And then I had this cute little boot. It was a whole boot that stood up, but he also took the grinder to it and ground it in half so I could have two to use in two different containers. And so what I want to do is fill this with soil, put the little boot on top so that it looks like a little container, and use succulents like they're growing out the top of the boot. And so this is how it works. I need succulents that are freshly cut. That's the best way to do this particular garden, because it will take a while for those roots to get established, which means they're going to sit and not grow in this container for a little while. And I want it to remain the same. Now, if I put roots in the pot, they're going to grow, they're going to have little stems, they're going to have little blooms, and it sort of messes up the show in the bottom of the pot. So freshly cut succulents are the way to go. Now, when you cut a succulent, you want to leave it out in the air for about a week so that the stem can callus, and then the roots will grow out of the callus. If you cut them and stick them into dirt and water them once a week or every other week, they usually rot before they grow a root. So it's really important to leave them laying out in the air so that you don't have that particular problem. So I'm going to fill my pot. I'm going to get as much soil as I want, because I'm not going to be digging holes in it to plant a big root system. I'm just going to slide my little cuttings in place. And I want to leave a little bit of this blue-green bowl showing out the top of the soil. And I'm going to place my little boot right at the bottom of the pot and just press it in just a little bit, like that. And then I'm going to start placing my plants. So I have two pretty good sized ghost plants. This one has already started to root, but that's all right, it'll work fine. So I have two of them, and this one, half of the leaves have come off the side of it because I had a little caterpillar chewing on it, but that doesn't mean I can't use it, because I can snug it right up to this one and have a great little base for the flower arrangement with this gray succulent. And I need to add a little soil just to kind of get it settled. You want it to be able to stand up on its own so that it doesn't fall over when you move the pot. You don't want to pack it tight, you just want to get it snug enough that it holds itself up. Like that. Just like that. And then I have some little green succulents with an orange trim on it. And I've discovered that the orange trim comes out really bright when the succulent is stressed a little bit. If it gets a little bit too much sun or not quite enough water, when it gets in a little bit of a stress situation, that's when the colors come out really great on your succulents. And I'm just putting them in the soil, snugging them up just a little bit, getting them positioned. And this is my last one. A paintbrush is helpful. With succulents, you don't want to have soil sitting on the little leaves because it will just create a rot situation. And that's never good with a succulent. Succulents are sometimes called fat plants because they store moisture in their leaves and they use that moisture to survive. They take up moisture from the soil, but it is to store it in their leaves. And that it explains why when you get them too wet, when you water them too often, they rot. They rot really easily. So you want to let them grow in a dry environment where they get a little bit of water occasionally. But in between watering, they dry out significantly. Now, one way to know that your succulent needs a drink is if you notice that the little leaves are shriveling. They're getting pruny like your fingers when you've been in the bathtub too long. When you see those wrinkling features on the leaves, that is your sign that your succulent needs a drink. So I've got it coming up out of the boot and sort of coming around over here because the boot is positioned a little bit to the right of the pot. And I want to have balance in my design, so this part of the plants coming down balances the fact that the boot is off center on the other side. And then once I get it situated like I want it, I want to cover up the soil. I don't want the soil to be the thing that you see around the plants. I want it to be little rocks. Let me show you what they look like. And what I have is a bag of gravel, and if you look online for gravel to use in succulent containers, usually what you find is pretty expensive. And what I've discovered is that aquarium gravel is a lot cheaper, and it's exactly the same thing. So generally when I'm ordering, I get aquarium gravel. And so it's a tiny little gravel. It has some really good color in it, and what I'm going to do is spread it around my boot and cover up the soil. And I'm going to use a handy little tool out of my kitchen to do that. And I want to lift the leaves up very gently because it's easy to break those little leaves off if you adjust them just a little too much. But you don't want to have a leaf underneath the rocks because it surely will rot if you do that. Use my brush, get the rocks on the soil and not on the plants. So this is my finished product, and it could go in my own garden as a great container with specimens of succulents in it, or I could give it to a friend as a gift, or I could use it tomorrow afternoon at my gardening class at the library, which is exactly what the plan is for this particular pot. Thanks for playing in the dirt with me. If I've given you a great idea, please consider like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on The Handcrafted Garden.